As a result of chronic budget deficits and economic issues, the financial health of cities in the United States has become increasingly insecure. Many towns are currently facing these challenges. There are a number of interrelated variables that contribute to this concerning trend. These issues include falling tax income, growing spending, unfunded liabilities, and broader economic trends. It is necessary to take a detailed look at these contributing factors and the effects they have on municipal governance in order to have an understanding of why cities in the United States are going bankrupt. Number 10. Declining tax revenues. The decrease in tax income is one of the key reasons why cities in the United States are experiencing financial difficulties. When it comes to supporting important services like public safety, education, and infrastructure, upkeep budgets for municipalities are dependent on tax income as their primary source of revenue. The decline in tax income can be attributed to a number of issues, including many cities, such as Detroit, have witnessed a substantial decrease in their population, which has resulted in a diminished tax base. Property taxes and sales tax receipts are both reduced when there are fewer residents in an area. Economic recessions, like as the one that was triggered by the COVID-19 epidemic, lead to a decrease in income and sales taxes. This is because unemployment rates rise and consumer spending decreases during these phases of the economy. Shifts in retail. The proliferation of e-commerce has had a negative impact on traditional brick-and-mortar retail businesses, resulting in a decrease in sales tax revenues that communities rely on. When it comes to commercial property prices, many metropolitan areas are struggling with empty shops and falling property values. Number 9. Rising costs and expenses. Cities are concurrently dealing with rising costs and expenses despite the fact that government income are falling. Public employee pensions. The expense of public employee pensions is one of the most important financial burdens that cities in the United States face. A great number of municipalities made promises of substantial pension benefits in order to entice and keep workers, but they failed to fully finance these commitments. At the same time that the population is becoming older and more workers are retiring, the demand on city budgets is getting worse. The rising cost of healthcare for public employees and retirees serves as an additional expense that is on the rise. The rising costs of medical care and the growing number of people receiving benefits put a strain on the city's financial resources. When it comes to infrastructure maintenance, it is necessary to make substantial investments in order to maintain and enhance the aging infrastructure. Infrastructure in many cities, including roads, bridges, and public transportation systems, is in a state of deterioration and requires immediate care, which results in increasing costs. Number 8. Unfunded liabilities. The third issue is unfunded liabilities, which are a significant problem for many communities. In particular, unfunded liabilities include pensions and healthcare benefits for retirees. This responsibility is a representation of promises that have been made to workers over the years, but those promises have not been appropriately paid. Cities are now confronted with enormous debts as a consequence of this. Pension obligations. Cities such as Chicago and Philadelphia are infamous for their substantial pension liabilities that are not adequately covered on their own. In order to fulfill these duties, communities are need to take money away from other services because they do not have adequate finances put aside. The healthcare benefits for retirees, which are comparable to pensions, are frequently inadequately supported. As a result of the requirement to reconcile present service needs with paying for commitments made in the past, cities are under a financial squeeze. Number 7. Economic shifts and deindustrialization. The transition from a manufacturing-based economy to a service-based economy has had a significant impact on many communities in the United States, notably those located in the Rust Belt. Cities such as Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo, which were formerly considered to be industrial powerhouses, have experienced a loss of manufacturing jobs. As a result of the drop in manufacturing, there has been a decrease in population, a loss of jobs, and a reduction in the tax base. A significant number of workers are left behind as a result of economic inequality. This is because economic growth in service industries often favors a smaller and better educated segment of the population. The increasing disparity between the rich and the poor can make it more difficult for cities to meet the requirements of communities who are struggling financially. Number 6. Federal and state funding cuts. There are a lot of cities that rely on financing from the federal government and state governments to balance their budgets. It is possible for cities to find themselves in a precarious financial situation if this assistance is reduced. The implementation of federal austerity, a policy in which the government reduces spending in order to control the national debt, can lead to the reduction of programs that are beneficial to cities, which would force municipalities to either lower the services they provide or find new sources of money. Number 5. Urban sprawl and infrastructure costs. And rise in the cost of delivering public services is a consequence of urban sprawl, which is defined by low-density development that is spread out over wide areas. Expansion of infrastructure. Sprawl necessitates the construction of significant infrastructure, which includes roads, utilities, and public services, which are spread out over wider areas, resulting in increased expenditures for maintenance and service. Providing services like policing, fire protection, and public transit becomes more expensive and less efficient in spread situations. This increases the cost of providing these services. Number 4. Political and governance issues. Another element that contributes to the financial difficulties that cities face is the presence of political problems and difficulties in governance. When it comes to making decisions, elected officials frequently emphasize short-term gains and visible projects over long-term budgetary health with regard to decision-making. Deferred maintenance, underfunded pensions, and other forms of financial mismanagement are all potential outcomes of this situation. Number 3. Housing market dynamics. Administrative inefficiency and corruption can be detrimental to the city's resources, resulting in inefficiency in governance. As a result of overlapping jurisdictions and agencies, several cities experience redundancies and inefficiencies. Number 8. Housing market dynamics. The housing market has a considerable impact on the finances of the city, and both booming and collapsing markets provide issues. Drops in property value. Cities that experience drops in property values see reductions in property tax collections to reflect the decline in property values. This is especially problematic in regions that have a high prevalence of real estate foreclosures and houses that have been abandoned. Number 2. Climate change and environmental costs. Cities are facing an increasing number of hazards and costs when it comes to climate change. When it comes to natural catastrophes, cities are experiencing an increase in the frequency and severity of natural disasters, including hurricanes, floods, and wildfires. For cities to effectively minimize future hazards, it is imperative that they make investments in climate resilience projects. These projects include the enhancement of drainage systems and the reinforcement of infrastructure, both of which can be rather expensive. Number 1. Public safety and social services. The growing demand for public safety and social services contributes to the financial stress that cities are under. The rising crime rates or the necessity for police reform might lead to an increase in the expenditures associated with policing. Achieving a balance between the requirements of the community and adequate law enforcement can be fiscally challenging. In order to effectively address issues related to homelessness, mental health, and substance misuse, it is necessary to allocate a substantial amount of resources to social services. These services are essential, but they can put a strain on finances that are already limited. In conclusion, the financial troubles that cities in the United States are currently confronting are a complex web of interconnected problems, each of which contributes to a more widespread landscape of financial misery. In addition to falling tax revenues, rising costs, and unmet liabilities, economic upheavals, funding cuts, and the expansive nature of urban expansion all contribute to the compounding of these problems. The strain that is being placed on municipal budgets is further exacerbated by factors such as governance concerns, the dynamics of the property market, climate change, and the growing demand for public emergency services and social services. In order for cities to successfully navigate these tumultuous waters, they need to adopt complete strategies that include precise financial planning, innovative income creation, and cost-effective service delivery. Those in charge of formulating public policy have a responsibility to confront and address the structural problems that lie at the core of these financial difficulties. They should advocate for pension reform, equitable economic development, and sustainable urban planning. Share your opinions with us in the comments and subscribe for more.